In a dark forest, an elderly couple, Ed and Lois Weller, faced danger as a creature named Dimitri Skantos, a Skelenzen, attacked and killed them. Ed's attempts to save his wife were in vain. Detectives Nick Burkhart and Hank Griffin investigated the crime scene the next morning. Surprisingly, they discovered horse tracks and claw marks, even though the couple didn't own horses. Juliet, Nick's wife, found his engagement ring, sparking memories. The detectives identified Dimitri Skantos as the prime suspect and visited his probation officer, Leo Tamor. Dimitri, with a history of violence, worked at his uncle's boxing gym. Nick and Hank decided to check out the gym in their pursuit of the truth. At the gym, Nick and Hank encounter Brian Cooney, Dimitri's workout buddy, and a dickfellig. Brian reveals that Dimitri went running in Forest Park a few weeks ago. While showing them the running trail, Brian runs off. Hank notices horse manure on the trail only 6 miles from the murder site. During Brian's run, the men on horseback capture him. Franco informs Hank about Dimitri's abandoned and salvaged car. At the location, the car is stripped of value and they spot someone near an abandoned warehouse. Pursuing him inside, they find a blood-soaked area and a ritualistic fighting space marked in Latin. The presence of medieval weapons raises suspicions. Franco gets injured as the suspect escapes, prompting a call to forensics for DNA analysis. Back at the station, reports confirm that the blood in the warehouse matches Dimitri's blood, indicating he participated in the arena fights. Nick and Hank bring pictures of the fighting ring to Captain Renard for translation. The Latin inscriptions suggest fighting to the death. Renard tracks down Leo Tamor, the fight club organizer, and orders him to shut it down as he violated orders by using Dimitri, who wasn't supposed to have any family. Leo, defiant and dismissing the importance of royalty, refuses to comply. Renard, angered, pulls out his gun, threatening to kill Leo unless he cleans up the mess or faces Renard doing it for him. Nick enlists Monroe's help to gather information on the fight club. Monroe visits a bar where he encounters Sally, a Weazen bookie. After revealing his bloodbad nature, Monroe seeks more thrilling bets, expressing disinterest in a greyhound race. Sally mentions the Lowen Games, but Monroe is initially reluctant. However, he persuades Sally with $100, gaining the number of a representative for the Lowen Games. Monroe promptly calls Nick, informing him that he'll meet someone at 6 p.m. in Linton who will guide him to the fight's location. At the police station, Renard informs Nick and Hank that Brian is missing and they disclose that he was last seen going for a run in Forest Park. Later, Franco contacts Nick, revealing that they've located Brian's abandoned car. Nick rushes to the scene, but Monroe calls, saying he's been waiting for his contact to guide him to the fight club. Concerned for Monroe's safety, Nick instructs him to leave immediately. As Monroe awaits his contact, a car with a horse trailer arrives. However, before Monroe can escape, he is assaulted. Nick hears the commotion over the phone, urging Monroe to get away. Arriving just in time, Nick arrests the assailant, extracting the fight club's location. Monroe finds himself in a cage at the fight club next to Dimitri. Attempting to connect with Dimitri's humanity, Monroe offers help with his injured hand, extracting a large nail. The handlers toss meat into the cages, revealing it to be human flesh, marked with a rhino tattoo of Brian Cooney. Shocked and disgusted, Monroe witnesses Dimitri devouring the gruesome meal. Later, Monroe undergoes electric shocks in an attempt to force his bloodbad transformation. Monroe is dragged into the fighting ring to face Dimitri, putting up a valiant effort but ultimately overpowered by the seasoned fighter. As Dimitri prepares to deliver a fatal blow, Nick arrives with police backup. Holding Leo at gunpoint, Nick demands Monroe's release. Leo, adamant that someone must die, forces Nick into the arena to face Dimitri. The crowd eagerly anticipates the rare spectacle of a Grim battling a Weazen. Despite a tough fight, Nick manages to defeat Dimitri just as the police backup arrives, shutting down the operation and saving both Nick and Monroe. Hank arrests Dimitri. Meanwhile, Juliet waits for Nick to arrive for their romantic dinner, unaware of the dangerous situation he's in. Disappointed and upset, she contemplates putting away the engagement ring Nick intended to propose with. Nick calls Juliet, informing her he's heading home from work. Still upset, Juliet remains uncertain about their future. In a parallel storyline, Captain Renard seeks the assistance of a mysterious priest to handle Leo Tamor. Renard reveals that Tamor is a fellow parishioner but insists he needs to be dealt with. The priest questions if Tamor can be saved, but Renard, convinced that Tamor is beyond redemption, leads the priest to carry out a lethal solution. As Renard walks away, the sounds of Tamor's demise echo in the background. 3 Shackles, Soledad Marquesa, Ian Flynn, and Hans Roth plan to rob a jewelry store. As the store closes, they forcefully enter, unleashing a hail of gunfire with automatic rifles. Sam Bertram, an employee, seeks refuge in the vault to ensure his safety. Realizing the criminals are drilling into the vault door, he grabs a small box of gold coins and consumes them. The criminals eventually blow open the door, finding Sam Bertram near death from ingesting the coins. Nick Burkhart and Hank Griffin, accompanied by Sergeant Wu, responds to the crime scene. Inside the vault, they discover it emptied of valuables and Sam Bertram's lifeless body covered in glass and metal shards. The robbery appears to be well executed and professional, with the thieves displaying a thorough understanding of their actions. Unfortunately, the security camera was tampered with, leaving no footage of the incident. The robbers return to their hideout to inspect the stolen coins. After scrutinizing each one, they suspect the coins might still be at the jewelry store. Soledad Marqueza accuses his accomplices of stealing the coins, leading to heated threats before he storms out. Left alone, Ian and Hans mistake each other for a burglar and shoot, fatally injuring one another. A Steinadler emerges from the shadows, overseeing their lifeless bodies. Harper informs Nick and Hank about Sam Bertram's death, stating that his entire system shut down, likely due to the gold coins. Gold typically doesn't cause such a severe allergic reaction, suggesting the coins contain other metals. Hank decides to collect the coins as evidence, though Harper expresses frustration since she still needs to run toxicology tests. Nick receives a call about the BMW found at the robbery scene, prompting them to investigate. At the BMW location, Nick and Hank find Officer Brenner waiting in his cruiser. They enter the premises, with Hank apprehending Farley Colt. As Brenner pursues Soledad, the suspect evades capture by jumping a fence. Hank is displeased with Brenner's failure, who later falls victim to an unseen assailant. When Nick arrests Colt, he witnesses the Steinadler transformation. Back at the precinct, Nick and Hank report to Captain Renard, with Hank expressing frustration about the events and mentioning the coins. The captain, intrigued, requests to examine the coins and senses their power. Renard makes a mysterious call to a friend in France, revealing that he has found the coins of Zakynthos. Hank, agitated, is advised to go home, and Nick proceeds to interrogate Farley Colt. During the interview, Farley Colt discloses to Nick that the robbers targeted the store to acquire the coins of Zakynthos, explaining their powerful influence on others. Colt recounts the coins' history, safeguarded until 18 years ago when a Grimm, Nick's parents, protecting them, died in a car accident in Rhinebeck, New York, where Nick grew up. Nick calls Monroe to the trailer for translation assistance. They discover information about Shakal, ruthless killers with a penchant for eating babies, and Steinadler, eagle-like creatures typically involved in the military. Monroe finds vintage film equipment, suggesting Aunt Marie's involvement. Meanwhile, Captain Renard gains power from the coins in his dream, envisioning a crowd in downtown Portland cheering him on as their leader. The next day, Renard appears in full uniform, announcing a press conference at 2 p.m. mandatory for all personnel. Nick searches for the coins in the evidence depository but finds only the empty box. The evidence officer implies Renard may not have logged anything. At the conference, Hank queries Nick about the coins, and Officer Brenner, resembling Soledad Marqueza, is present. Despite media speculation about Renard's political ambitions, he claims the speech is a warning to potential criminals. With Soledad Marqueza still at large, Nick and Hank investigate his last known location, a hotel room. Although empty, they discover clothes, a suitcase, and a film reel with 2 letters concerning the coins. One letter from 1943 in German and another from 1945 in English from the Office of Strategic Services states that the coins, made of gold, arsenic, and mercury, are not to be handled. They were transferred in a lead box to an Allied headquarters vault, and only 3 of the 10 coins were found. Hank suspects the coins influenced Marqueza's behavior and believes Captain Renard possesses them. Hank decides to search Renard's office and is joined by Nick and Farley Colt, recently cleared in the murder investigation. Soledad causes a blackout in the parking garage and seizes Renard. In the ensuing gunfight, Soledad escapes with Colt and the coins. Despite Hank shooting Soledad, he dies without revealing information about Nick's parents. Later, Nick confronts Colt in his hotel room, demanding the coins. After a scuffle, Nick retrieves the coins and instructs Colt to forget about them. Back in the trailer, Nick feels the coins' magical influence and hastily returns them to their box in the weapons cabinet. Examining the film from Colt, Nick discovers footage from the 1940s showing Adolf Hitler wedging into a bloodbath, with the coins of Zakynthos visible on his coat collar.